Hi everyone, it's Nick with Build Up Advisory Group, and it's Fastball Fridays, a web series where we will quickly build what you know about infrastructure design in the nonprofit sector. Today's Fastball topic is using infrastructure to protect your intellectual property. Your intellectual property, or IP, is a creative work or invention that you have rights to. You can apply for protection of those rights by applying for a patent, copyright, or trademark, for example, and you can also license those rights. As a nonprofit, in order to continue to provide resources to the communities you're serving, you should be focused on value and asset creation. Part of asset creation should include IP, and there's a clear link between strong infrastructure and protecting or sustaining your IP to support asset creation. I'll give you 3 examples to illustrate this point. First, if you're thinking, we just want to make everything free for everyone to use, so I don't see why we would focus on infrastructure to do that, you're the first example. For starters, I think this type of licensing is great. The key I want organizations to keep in mind is that when you license your work, you're allowing people to learn about your work, methodology, or the way you approach problem solving. And your infrastructure plays a key role in that license management. It may just emphasize different parts of that management. I'll explain. For any license management, your infrastructure should have a vetting process to determine the appropriateness of licensing, including when you license your work, in what context, and what kinds of derivative works or works that are based on your work should be allowed, and who within your organization will be involved in making that determination. The emphasis may be heavier on derivative works in some contexts or on initial vetting in others, for example, but that emphasis or the kind of licensing used doesn't mean there shouldn't be any infrastructure. Instead, a strong infrastructure will help to determine where the emphasis should be placed. If you're still thinking, well, we're just writing articles and blogs, why should I care about IP or having a strong infrastructure to protect it? Your example number 2. Let's talk through the connection. When you publish your article into the world, you want the information to be shared, and you should have a say in how that information is shared and in what context. Having a system that manages these questions and ensures that your written work is used as intended and your message is shared as you thought it should requires strong infrastructure, like clear policies and procedures that provide support on how to manage each of these components. So writing articles and blogs and not thinking about use, misuse, or licensing of these works is a missed opportunity. And if you're sharing these works but are neglecting your infrastructure, you're impairing your value and asset creation and limiting your sustainability. Third, this need for infrastructure also shows up in agreements that you might have with consultants performing services for your organization. If a consultant creates a report, for example, for your organization, does your agreement template have appropriate work made for hire language that gives copyright ownership of that report to your organization, or a language that sufficiently transfers all rights and interests in the deliverable to the organization? Do you then track this information in a centralized database so that everyone who needs access to this information has it? Codifying this entire process increases your organizational capacity. That's why infrastructure matters. Infrastructure helps bring consistency of results. Instead of relying on each person's discretion, you will rely on a system that's evaluative and responsive. The stronger the infrastructure, the stronger the consistency. And consistency in your organization's messaging and communication about your work is crucial to value and asset creation and effective storytelling, which, as we discussed in Fastball Friday episode 20, is necessary for sustainability. And that's our Fast Build. I want to hear how you are thinking about using your infrastructure to protect your intellectual property. I would love to hear from you and about your experience in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful weekend and keep building bravely.